the question coming out of this year, you saw the conversation here back and forth, and I want to go real fast to the point about the fundraisers real fast. Last week, you had no public events outside of the Education Forum, held 18 fundraisers there, critical upstage. I got to ask you, why have those fundraisers in the first place?
Well, we need all of the resources that we can bring to the fight to end the Trump presidency. And, this is how we're going to win. It's got to be everybody contributing. Now, we've opened our fundraisers to the press, which is extremely rare in U.S. presidential politics, but I think it's the right thing to do for transparency.
Could you tell folks, why do you need that face-to-face? I think that was the point that Elizabeth Warren was sitting on. Why do you need those face-to-face?
We want to make sure we do everything we can to build the campaign and to build the party. And that's everything from somebody who chips in $5 or $10 online to somebody who comes to an event. And as you can tell, because of course we invite the press to those events, what I say in those events is the same thing that I say if I'm in a backyard in Iowa. But the point is, we got to make sure that we motivate and engage everybody who wants to be part of ending the Trump presidency and moving us toward a better future.
Senator Klobuchar was critical, perhaps, of your own experience compared to others up on that stage. And to that very point, she was talking about, the senator was talking about going back and forth there and suggesting that, you should turn to somebody from the Midwest. And when it comes to that and to your own experience, I guess, why was the senator off base with her assertion towards you?
Well, I completely agree on the part about having a nominee and a president from the Midwest. I guess where I view it differently is I don't think that Washington experience is the only thing that matters. Folks are frustrated with Washington, frankly, especially where I live in the Midwest. And there's a desire for executive experience. There's a desire for different kinds of experience that can help change Washington before Washington changes us.
I've got to ask you here, because Senator Klobuchar also made mention of your race in which you lost by 25 percentage points. 2 years earlier, Barack Obama won Indiana, and 2 years later, Joe Donnelly actually beat the opponent that you lost to. What evidence can you actually suggest that you would be able to actually win there in the Midwest?
2010 was one of the worst years for Democrats in American history, and especially as a Democrat with no name recognition, not a lot of money, running statewide in 2010 during the peak of the Tea Party season in Indiana, one of the most conservative states in the country. It was really different from 2008, really different from 2012, but I'm still glad that I did it, even though it was unlikely from the get-go that we were going to win. It was worth it because I was running on a platform of defending Barack Obama's decision to rescue the American auto industry, and I believed somebody needed to stand up for auto workers and needed to stand up for working families against this ideological obsession of the incumbent state treasurer. So, going into a race like that, how uphill it is, but I'm still proud of what we did. And of course, I'm also proud of what we've been able to do in my hometown in Indiana, and I believe that experience is highly relevant. I get that it's not Washington establishment experience, but I think it's the kind of experience we need more of going into the White House.
Last question real fast. We hear from folks that are concerned that if you do incremental, you talk about public option, you said you want to get to Medicare for all ultimately, but to folks who are concerned that if you were to go the public option route and ultimately there is backlash, it is not as effective as Medicare for all, that the party damages its case that it's the most effective message around health care. What do you say to those voters?
If Medicare for all really is the right answer, then you would certainly expect the public option to work well. Otherwise, it kind of defeats the whole case. Look, what I'm proposing we do would be one of the biggest transformations we've made in American history in a half century. And at the same time, it's done in a way that's organic, that lets Americans decide, and just trust Americans to make their decision when it comes to their health care.
And do you agree with Speaker Pelosi's decision to hold the impeachment articles from advancing?
I'll leave that to the Speaker. I know there's a lot of complex dynamics in the House. My focus is on defeating President Trump.
All right. Mayor Buttigieg, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.